13 years old. Life began life, and I witnessed my mom shoot up some drugs with a needle, and I left out the house. The embarrassing thing was stealing from my aunt, stealing food stamps to get us some food. All I would remember the next thing was being on the basement floor when they did the test, and she told me I was pregnant. I'm like, how? I didn't have a job, so I had to start selling drugs. That got kind of scary because who's going to raise my son now? As soon as I walked through the door, I already knew he was going because the dog cage was gone. I went and got a nonprofit. I went and got my license. And then I filed for a divorce.
Welcome to Candid Talks About Sex for Saints, where we get candid about love, sex, wellness, and relationships. Just so you know, I am Tammy, a wife, a mother, best-selling author, your favorite intimacy and relationship coach, the host of this fantabulous podcast where we're going to promote sex, but still keep it God. And I got a question for you. Have you ever wished that someone had taught you more about sex from a faith-filled perspective? Or have you ever had questions that no one could answer? Or felt like if you knew then what you know now, you might have made some decisions a little different? Well, let me tell you, you are not alone. This podcast is dedicated to just that. We're going to fill in the gaps. We're going to break some silence and help you to grow in godly intimacy without shame. And y'all, I got my girl, Crystal, on the line. What's up, Crystal?
Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. Hey. Listen, I'm so excited when I have my friends on the podcast because I know that they have stories. But before we get into it, I do have this truth and myth segment that I love to do because it kind of gives you a direction of where we are going when it comes to the podcast or the episode. So, you ready? You ready to get into it?
I am.
Okay. And so the first question that I have is, if someone looks strong on the outside, it means that they are fully healed from their past.
False.
Absolutely false. Absolutely false. And, you know, we were having a little bit of technical difficulties earlier, but what I said earlier was sometimes, I know even for me, sometimes I'm walking around, or you know how you're the strong one and you're always walking around like you're healed sometimes, and people will be like, okay, there's nothing going on with you, but sometimes you really be hurting. You really be hurting. Absolutely. All right. So the next question that I have is, abuse only affects the victims. It does not impact their family or future generations.
False.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we are here, because we are breaking some cycles. Absolutely. Okay, here's another one. Healing is a one-time event. Once you decide to forgive or move on, the past disappears completely.
That's not true.
Absolutely, it's not true at all. Healing is a continuous process.
Yes,
It's a continuous process. All right. But one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because there are so many saints, especially Christians, who have walked through childhood trauma that has shaped how they see themselves, how they see their relationships, how they see sex, and most importantly, how they see God. And for many of them, those early experiences have attached shame, they've attached guilt and fear to something that God has actually created to be beautiful. And what I feel that happens is, you know, a lot of times those who struggle, they struggle to trust God in their sexuality. They struggle to feel that he is safe. They struggle to understand that his design is safe. And we begin to live that out in our experiences. And so we start creating our own rule, our own things that is going to make us feel safer, because we do it as a way to try to protect ourselves. We want to be in control because people have legit hurt us. And as a result, we start to do things, and sometimes it might not always align with God and the things that he has designed for us, because we have convinced ourselves that God might not sometimes be safe. Or we build these ideologies to protect ourselves instead of surrendering to, you know, his pain, which is why I believe that this podcast matters. We want to hear the testimony coupled with theology, because hearing the stories of other women has helped us to realize a few things. One, that, you know, it is possible to live out God's design and his desires. And the other thing is that even if we are struggling, that we're not the only ones going through it and still trying to maintain that alignment. And so with that, I am excited again to introduce my guest, Crystal.
Yeah.
And I love Crystal. I love Crystal, y'all.
And
I met Crystal through Win Women and Empower. It's a community of some extraordinary women. Let me tell you, what I admire about her is not just her gifts or her fashion, Let me tell you, this girl can dress. Just say that because I want to make sure that this is said inside this. This girl can put some pieces together, making sure you don't leave that out, right? But I love her story. I love how she has pivoted in her story, even though she has experienced some traumatic things. So Crystal is one of those inspiring women. Hearing her story is not just inspiring, though, it's also healing. When you hear what she has gone through, it's gonna be a reminder that you also can make it out, whatever situation it is that you're going through. So with that said, Crystal, tell everybody a little bit about you. We're trying this again, y'all.
Once again, right? Hello everyone. I am Crystal. I am a phenomenal woman. I am a mother of two, a grandmother of two. I am a author. I'm a co-author. I'm a stylist. I'm a lot of things, but most of all, I am a leader. I just love to lead by God, walk in those footsteps.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad we started with that. But what I do want to ask you, because your story it's a little bit heavy, right? And so I don't want to start with heavy. I wanna find out from you, like, what is one thing that you have learned to appreciate more in this season of your life?
I'm gonna say, to be honest, I learned to appreciate me more
I love that.
because I always gave me to other people
Yeah.
and care for other people. So to actually see and begin to learn me is a process, and it's a wonderful process to go through.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I want to go back with you for a moment because your story, as I mentioned, it carries a lot of weight, but also a lot of wisdom. And you have faced some things in your past, right? And so I want us to go back to your childhood, like a young age when you were younger. And I want to talk a little bit about what was life for you growing up and some of those challenges that shaped who you are.
So actually, growing up, I had a great childhood till around, I would say, 13 years old. Life began lifing because there became a epidemic, drugs. And my mother went from a loving, caring mother to someone that we didn't even recognize or know. And it was really hard. I had to find my way, navigate my way through life as a 8th grade dropout, not knowing what to do and what to expect. Honestly, I didn't know where I was going to turn to after that had occurred.
Right, right. And when you say that occurred, you're talking in terms of the drug and things like that. So let's talk a little bit about that. Because you said that was up until you were 13.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're 13 years old, and when did your mom start using?
When I was 13.
Okay.
She's 28 years old.
Okay, she was 28 years old. And so how was that for you? Like, let's talk a little bit about that.
So it was hard to actually see my mom go through that because she went from being that strict mother. We coming in, we had to do our homework, we had dinner on the table. It was discipline. It was a whole disciplined household. My mother always loved us, so I ain't gonna say went from a loving household because it always was a loving household. It's just that the addiction took over.
Right, right. And I can't imagine, living in a space where, you have that strict parental authority and then something coming in and changing that. How did that change the dynamics of your household? Like, what are some of the examples of things that happen?
So for me, having to raise my sisters, help raise my sisters to raising them, being evicted, that actually getting pregnant as well.
Yeah, yeah. And like you mentioned a lot of things that's layered because, when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking like, man, you're still young. You're still young. And so when you're saying, okay, I'm 13 and I'm now having to take care of my siblings, like that is a lot. Right. And then you mentioned earlier that you were in 8th grade, like you had to drop out at 8th grade, right?
So It's crazy. I actually went to the 8th grade. Because I felt embarrassed, I felt hurt. I actually went through the whole entire 8th grade, but I knew I wasn't passing. I even let my mom do my hair the night before the graduation and everything, still knowing I wasn't graduating. Got dressed and everything. And I felt like since I was embarrassed by what she did, I was going to embarrass her.
Wow. Wow. It sounds like it's one of those things where because life has suddenly changed, you know how it is like when you have a household with like two parents and then one parent leaves and then now the children are starting to act out. So it wasn't like one of those situations where now, okay, I'm acting out because now my mom is doing this thing and now I'm having all these different responsibilities, etc.
I was confused. I didn't know what to do because at such a young age, like I'm so used to my mom doing for us, like my mom, my aunts, my uncles. I was used to them doing for us.
Right, right. And so what I'm hearing is that meant that you kind of had to like, or your parents had to pull back. And so you had to kind of like step up and
So my dad wasn't active. My dad
okay.
was around. He wasn't active.
Mhm.
More so his mother came around and cared for me and my sister than he did.
Okay. Okay. And so like what were some of the things that you had to transition through? Because going through that, I know it had to be hard, you know, having a mom who is on drugs. So like what were some of the responsibilities that led you to now having to do in terms of like you and your siblings, you having to take on that role?
Making sure we had something to eat, making sure we went to school. The most embarrassing thing was stealing from my aunt, stealing food stamps to get us some food.
Wow. Wow. So now, and you were around 13, you say 13, 14-ish?
No, so that was like 14. That was like 14. Yep.
Wow. And so I'm just thinking like now to like have the weight of the responsibilities, you're not even living like a normal child at this moment because at your age, you should be outside like playing with other kids.
And that's what I was used to doing. The street lights come on, we had to be in the house.
Mhm.
It's like all of that
It just changed.
dissipated.
Wow. And so I can imagine that it was kind of sudden, you know? And so like now you are in the headspace of survival mode.
Yes.
And so like when you mention things like, oh man, I had to like steal food stamps just so that we could survive. Like that's crazy work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What were some other things that you had to experience during those periods?
So my mom used to have card parties. And it's just crazy how when the trauma comes out, like of things that you've been through, then you get to remember like a lot of things that happened. So my mom used to have card parties. There used to be like older people in there, and I didn't know or understand what they were doing. So I always had like heavy breasts, and I always was built. So it would be like the older men making gestures, but I didn't understand what it was. I had to go through stuff like that.
Wow, that's actually, you know, adding another layer to your story because now, you know, as a result of the things that's going on, now you're being placed in environments where you have grown men who are approaching you and making you feel uncomfortable because you still have the mind of a child because that's what you were. You didn't know how to process that. Like how was that? Like did you have anybody who you would tell about these experiences? Like did you mention it at all? Why do you think that was? Like why do you think you didn't mention it?
Because I didn't really understand what they were doing. And it's crazy because I can still see it in my mind. When the trauma like came back to me, I could actually absolutely see what they were doing. Like being around a lot of different women and they explain the things that happened to them that led to either rape, molestation, however they was. This man actually like licked his tongue out and put his finger around like the nipple area. Like I could vividly see. And it wasn't until more trauma happened to me that I remember and can recall those things.
Right, right. And I think that's like it's so unfortunate that, you know, when you're going through these things as a child that and this is one thing that I always talk about in terms of when children go through abuse or at a young age and not having the environment or feeling safe enough to be able to talk to other people, because a part of that is because of culture, right? When things happen, we are taught to keep quiet and sweep it under the rug and not speak about these experiences. And so when things actually happen, and there's nobody around to talk to, we begin to internalize and live these things out. We begin living out the symptoms of. And so, which leads me to, you're speaking in terms of like some more traumatic events happening after that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
So I might have to go forward to go back. So it wasn't until I wrote my book that I can remember going back to age 10. So when I got a divorce and my mom passed away and everything, it's like stuffing all of that together brought a lot of trauma out. Then it made me go back to age 10 when I used to go to the store for my neighbor. Because, when we were younger, you go to the store for your neighbor, they pay you whatever. And my neighbor took advantage also then telling me that he needed me to come help him with his friend. And his friend meaning his penis. And he made me have oral sex with him at age 10. I remember I still can remember that as well, being pushed in the closet when the brother came upstairs. And I completely did not remember that at all.
Wow. Wow. I think it's so interesting that, when we experience things that are so traumatic, that we begin to black it out because we don't want to relive those experiences. And so we begin to, try to build a defense so that we don't remember. Right. And I think that's probably one of those situations that happened with you.
My neighbor, I actually thought there was an imagination in my head. I didn't really want to believe it, but when I wrote it in my book and one of my other neighbors contacted me and she was like, Crystal, please tell me who you're talking about. And when I told her, Tammy, she bust out crying and was like, I thought I was the only one.
Wow.
And
Wow.
she's 2 years younger than me.
Wow. That is so sad because that's another thing, right? When you are experiencing things like this, like a lot of times you are not the only victim, which is unfortunate. And I'm so sorry that you didn't even have anybody who you felt safe enough to even express that to. And this is why I talk about it so much. And I know, sometimes people be like, oh, you talk about it a lot. Yes, I do talk about it a lot because I get irritated and annoyed when people always say, no, you can't talk about the trauma. You can't talk about the things that happen. But that is what keeps people in bondage, right? And that is what continues the cycle on. And I think that, we are at a space now where men need to start or I don't even want to say just men, but the abusers need to begin being penalized for doing the things. And once you speak up openly and loud, it takes you out of that category. Like they kind of leave you alone a little bit because they're like, okay, this one right here, she's talking about it. So I'm going to try my best not to mess with that one. You know what I mean? But man, you mentioned earlier that, you found yourself pregnant. I want to talk a little bit about that because how old were you again?
I was 15 when I got pregnant. I was 16 when I had my baby.
Wow. And at such a young age. I want to talk
didn't even know how I got pregnant.
I want to talk a little bit about that. Like how do you not know that you have gotten pregnant?
Again, it had to be a blackout moment as well. So what I do remember, the day that everything happened, because I witnessed my mom grade shoot up some drugs with a needle and I left out the house. So it was like something that I saw. I was like, so my neighbor, she's like a sister to us. And she wanted to walk to the store, but she had to go to the bathroom first. So went in the house and all I would remember the next thing was being on the basement floor. I don't remember anything else. So I went back to my normal life with playing and everything. Even though my mom was on drugs, she kept up with my period and it didn't come on. So she made me have my baby. I had a great uncle that told me I was too young to have a baby and asked my mom to take me to get an abortion. She did.
Wow. And I'm just kind of like thinking even about that moment, right? You're finding yourself pregnant, not even knowing what happened. You didn't have like any ideas like, man, I didn't even like you blacked out. Wow. And you didn't have any ideas about who you might have even been pregnant for. Oh, you did. Okay.
I knew where I was. I was in my girls.
Okay. Okay. And so, but you had no idea that you were pregnant and that this experience happened. Like this, I don't want to say experience, but this moment happened.
So if I could, and the crazy part, I wouldn't even know how to begin to understand like that moment or what happened because it's like it drew a whole blank. Like it drew a blank. I had to walk around being ridiculed. I don't know who I was pregnant by. Like a lot of things happened and transpired to even like my baby having to lay there and we get a blood test done. And the same individual that said he didn't even touch me. Tell his mother and father he did not touch me and that I was lying. And he had a disease. So if I didn't have the same disease, I wasn't pregnant by him. So his mother took it a step farther. She went to my mom's caseworker. They made us get a blood test, only for my son to come out 97.10% his child.
Wow. Wow. And I think that's so crazy. And I want to go back a little bit because I'm just thinking like, man, having to come home first and, you're walking around like normal, you're doing things like normal. Your mom, is becoming aware like, hey, something not right. Like I'm noticing something. So let's go and do this thing. Like, how was that? Like how
I didn't
finding
understand
out?
that either
Yeah.
because she made my aunt, in which she's not even my blood aunt, is my uncle's wife at the time, made her take me to the doctor. And I didn't understand why she took me to the doctor, like what was going on. And when they did the test and she told me I was pregnant, I'm like, how?
Wow. Wow. And what was her reaction to that?
My mom?
Both of them.
Well, my
Because,
aunt,
yeah.
she was consoling me because I was crying because I didn't understand how I even got pregnant. But my mom was angry because my mom didn't go with her. She just asked my aunt, had my aunt take me.
Yeah. And I can understand that because if I'm thinking, okay, my daughter is 15 and she's pregnant, the natural response would be to be angry because, like you're pregnant. You know what I mean? And it wouldn't just be anger, but it would be a lot of feelings going on right there. And so how did y'all process that, like moving forward?
I don't think it was a process anything because, again, my mom was in her addiction and I ain't even because she didn't say that, but I feel like I was then labeled as a fresh child.
Yeah, yeah. And you had to go through life, at that moment. It's almost like from what I'm hearing is that you're having to go through that by yourself.
By myself.
How was that for you?
Scary.
Yeah.
Because even when, so I had him at 16. My mom put me out at 17. So I had to go live with my aunt who was selling drugs at the time. So I didn't have a job. So I had to start selling drugs. That got kind of scary because who's going to raise my son now? Because now I got this baby. This baby got to be with me. Doesn't have a father. So what do I do? And with selling drugs became crazy because now my aunt that I'm living with became addicted to drugs. Then now she's from me.
Wow.
So now she puts me out.
Now you're just adding more layers of crazy to the story because now you're 16 with a whole child. And
No,
now,
when I was living with her at 17.
okay, so you're thrown out of your house, right? The house where you grew up in, you were fine. Like it was the great house, the disciplinary house. And then your mom gets into a situation. Now you are the caretaker of your siblings, and now you're pregnant, and then you have a baby, and now you are being kicked out and having to move here, and now you're selling drugs to be able to survive. Like, girl, how are you surviving in this moment, right?
I don't even know. And the crazy part, when I stopped selling the drugs because my aunt was stealing, I went to work at Wendy's. I remember that in Houston Hall on Penn campus, but I couldn't find nobody to be a stable babysitter, so I had to quit. Then I began to work in a deli up the street from my house, and it's like now I'm just lost.
Wow.
But I
But
just
I just
wanted to
wanted
go
to go
get
get
an
an
education
education
there, so I
there. So
tried
I
to go
tried to
get a
go get a
GED.
GED.
That was
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. But man, because I'm thinking about the story and you're doing it and you're doing it alone. But the mindset is completely different because, again, you had to grow up so fast that you didn't even have an opportunity to be a child, you know? And so, how did you start working your way out of that situation? Like, what were some of the steps that you began to do?
I went to a GED program, and the GED program, like, they had our children or in daycare. They would put us in, like, I believe it was a program called Sunnycrest, where if we attended, they would give us vouchers to take care of our kids, like buy them clothes and everything. But it's nothing like, I feel like now I'm homeless because I don't have a place to call my own, and I'm going home to live with somebody to share a room. So I'm in a room with my baby, two cousins, and my sister. So that's how I had to live. So that's what, when I speak about homeless, that's homeless, right? So I'm getting angry now that, I'm making sure my child has everything, but now my aunt is stealing from me and I address it and now she puts me out.
Wow. Wow. It's just layer after layer. And it's a hard life. It's a hard struggle, right? You are in a situation where you are trying to survive, going from work to work, and people who are grown adults
Mhm.
are having to struggle with these things and can't get through it. But here it is, you're a child and having to find your way regardless of what's going through. And so now you're on to stealing from you and now you just can't survive. So like what were the next things that you did to get out of that situation?
I didn't even think I was going to get out the situation, but I went to live with a good friend of mine's I can't live. I went to stay with her for 2 days. Her mom, even though she was there with her 4 children, her mom and her brother, they let me stay there for 2 days. And then the next 2 days, I went to stay with one of my cousin's grandmother. She let us stay there for 2 days. So that was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I remember it was a Friday morning. I really wish I could remember the date, but it was a Friday morning. It's pouring down raining, and I'm sitting in the GED program, crying harder than the rain falling. So one of my mom friends and someone that I grew up with knew where I was. They came and got me and told me the lady that the head of PHA in our area was looking for me. And when I went to see her, she said, I need you to she gave me the address to go to. She said, and get the keys to your apartment.
Wow.
So
So
I
I
get an
get up
apartment.
home.
I
I
had
had
4
4
bags of
bags of
clothes.
clothes.
We
Yeah. We
drug those
drug those
clothes to
clothes
their
to their
apartment,
apartment
and we were
and we were
sleeping on
sleeping on
top of
top
those
of those
bags.
bags.
Well, I'm going to
Well, I'm
say
gonna say
I
I
was.
was
Because I had
because
a
I had a
friend at the
friend at the
time
time.
who bought my son a bed. He said, you can do what you want to do, but I'm going to make sure he has a bed.
Wow. And so, this is how, because I don't even know how to even ask what you were going through mentally during that time. But I want to ask a little bit about like what was going on in your mental state before somebody came and gave you some resources.
I didn't know who to identify as like a loser, Crystal, or just nobody. I didn't know. I
Yeah.
just
I
felt
just
like
felt like,
bad luck everywhere.
yeah. I'm so glad that obviously you were speaking to someone or someone was watching your story from somewhere because that eventually led you to being able to get some type of relief. And so, like, what were you feeling when they were like, get those keys?
So I really appreciate her. She's deceased now. It's crazy. The two ladies that came to get me and the lady that gave me the place, they all are deceased. But her name is Miss Peggy. When I say I appreciate her and my mom were good friends, even in my mom addiction. She hated that my mom got evicted, but she felt like I was old enough to be able to get my own place. She said she was sorry that she couldn't help me at the time that it happened because remember, my mom put me out, so I wasn't even there. But she didn't want to see me on the street with my baby. So
Yeah, but she still kept working in the background, and that's something, that's what God does, man. Like, he will put people in the background, even in moments where you're not even sure how you're gonna make it, even at your young age, right? You're experiencing things that you should absolutely not have to experience, but yet here you are, and God still has his hand on you.
yes.
He still had his hand on you and making sure you were good. So let's talk a little bit about that transition, like, going through, getting your apartment, and now, like, how was life after that?
I was a people pleaser. So anybody that wanted to come live with me, I let them come live with me. I want to be friends with people. I let them come to my house. I was doing all of these things that was unnecessary because I didn't believe in me.
Wow. Wow. And so now you're in a situation again where you have been blessed with someplace to stay, but now people are in positions where they're taking advantage of you. That's what I'm hearing.
I let them.
Up until what point?
When I met my ex-husband.
Okay. And around what age were you when you met your then ex-husband?
23.
Okay, so you're now 23 years old, and now you're starting to evolve because now your son is growing, and now you're in a cycle of your own life and living out those symptoms. So let's talk about that, because a lot of times I didn't hear anything about where healing took place, right? Or where there was a process of anything to happen. And so now you've had all this trauma and experienced all these things, and now you are inside of a relationship when you haven't even dealt with those things. So how did being in that relationship, I want to say, how was being in that relationship with all of the trauma that you carried?
I felt like, first of all, I didn't feel like I could even be in a relationship, let alone even be married. So let's start there. I didn't even think I could be with anyone. When I met my ex-husband, it's like from the door, we became friends. We did a lot of things together, and the company slowed down. Of course, I let him say, "You having too much company," even though it was, but I just changed. I'm going to say, because this is the part where I say I put a man before God, because now I want to go back to school. Now I want to do some things. And I would always say, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have did it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but at the same time too, like, when I hear that, um, you know, what I hear is, you're 23 and you've experienced a lot of things. And so sometimes we look to relationships for the security that we were missing because we want to feel safe. And so, like, when we think about the ideologies and the things that we create, um, we don't want to be alone when we've experienced trauma, you know? And so it's more of a, because you didn't have an opportunity to process what it was that you were going through. Now you have somebody where you're trying to hold on to it because of those experiences. So I wouldn't even say that it's one of those situations where you're putting him before God. It's more of a, I've experienced this trauma and I'm still living this trauma out by trying to hold on to him because I'm not in a space where I'm secure enough to be alone. Right. And so the decisions that you make are revolving around, trying to keep safe. Yeah. And that's one of the things about when we live these things out, like we don't understand how it shows up sometimes, because we're living it, we're experiencing it. It's almost like, it's how you can look at the picture. If you're in the picture, you can't see the whole thing. So when you're in, it's almost like one of those things. So how did that evolve into a marriage?
I don't even know, because it took 12 years for us to get engaged.
Oh, wow.
It took 12 years for us to be engaged. But we did a lot of things together. After what? We were together at age 23. Then I got pregnant and had a kid for him at 25. And I told him, listen, I raised one by myself. I'm not raising another one. So if you're going to be here, you're going to be here. If not, you're going to take this baby with you. So now I'm pregnant. My second child at 25.
Yeah. So was he a little bit more active in his life?
A whole lot active in both my children's life.
So that's good. That's good that you were able to now have that come in. So at what point did you start realizing, okay, I need more. I need more from this, because I know you said this is my ex-husband. So you say you were married for how long?
We were married 10 years, but together 23 years.
Okay, so at what point did you decide I want to evolve to something more? Like I have to start working on Crystal.
After I had my second son, I was like, I cannot do what I watch a lot of other people do, especially my family members as well. But I'm gonna say, live off of the system. So now I want different. So let me see what I could do. So I told you I did the GED. The GED wasn't for me. Couldn't pass the test, no nothing. So now I go back to school and I'm going to night school. This was 1998. I went to night school and I graduated within like 5 months, sitting in a class with kids at night, but I did it. Graduated, wanted my children to see me graduate. Because I really wanted that diploma. I already helped my sisters get their diploma. They were already established. So now it's my turn.
Love that for you, because you are showing us, like, real talk. We have no excuses.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like in us in our big age, right? Like we allow so many different things, and I'm talking to, viewers, right? We allow so many different things that we're going through to stop us from, accomplishing the things that we want to accomplish. But you said, no, I want my GED. I'm going to go to school at my big age with my kids to class, and I'm going to get this thing because this is something that I'm setting out to do. And so I'm pretty sure that gave you some form of like empowerment. Yes,
it did. And it's my diploma. Remember I said I went for the GED. The GED wasn't working for me. So I said, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get a diploma. So I went to night school and got a diploma.
I love that. And did you continue on with that?
So I started working and then, no, I became I became a nursing assistant the year I got pregnant with my second son. But I said I needed more because you could be certified, but all you're going to get is like a low paying job. So that's what made me, after I got the diploma, I went to school for medical assistant. So I now began working in clinics and hospitals and things like that. So now when I got a job that pays tuition reimbursement, now I'm going to go back to school.
I love that. I love that. And during this time, how was your relationship with your mom?
I love my mom unconditionally. I just was mad at the decisions that she made. Even like us as the kids, right? My grandma had 7 kids. So us as the kids, because they all were addicted, had a meeting one day and we wanted to let them know how we feel. Like, because it was embarrassing to know that they all were on drugs, but we still love unconditionally. Like my mom was the matriarch. Everybody loved her, even in her addiction. Like we was hoping that she would be the one that break it so everybody else could stop. And you know what they told us? We're grown. Stay in a child's place.
Right, right. So how does she feel about you accomplishing these things throughout the years?
She was happy my mom was happy for me. The crazy part is when I went back to school, it was like 2000. It was 2000 because I was working for Dr. Gosnell, the abortion clinic. I said, let me see what I could do with this. But that's another part of trauma because it was an abortion clinic. So when I actually had to go in the back and work and see body parts, I had to quit. I asked my husband at the time. I was like, I gotta find another job. I can't do this. Because that
Yeah.
was like another part of trauma.
Yeah, that had to be hard. That had to be hard. I can't even imagine. Like, I don't even want to because I'm pretty sure, like, it makes you feel some type of way when you're seeing these babies and their body parts and what a lot of people don't realize as it relates to that. And so I don't
Mhm.
even want to imagine it. I don't even want to imagine it. But at what point did you say, okay, I want out of this relationship. I want more for myself?
Out of what relationship?
Of your marriage, because you were still married at this time, yes?
Mhm.
Yeah. So at what point did you say, okay, we're not gonna, like, I don't want to do this anymore?
Far as being married or
Or
because no,
as far as being married?
we wasn't even married.
Oh, okay. So you already divorced.
No,
Oh,
I
you
didn't
weren't
get
married
married till
yet.
2006.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
We went through a lot of things together, but 12 years, we was together 12 years before we even got engaged.
okay. Okay. And so then he's walking this thing with you at this point.
Yes.
Still holding on. Okay,
Yes.
understood. Understood. So at what point within that relationship where you decided, that you did want to get a divorce, because I know he became your ex-husband and y'all lived together and did all the things and got married and all those things. Like, when did that relationship kind of like fizzle out and you said, like, I wanted out?
Well, I didn't even want out. It was forced.
Okay.
I You couldn't tell me that we wasn't gonna be together forever. But I realize now that God placed people in your life for a reason, right? So the things that occurred and the things that had happened, felt like he should have been there more for me, but he wasn't. Um, I feel like he was like envious of my growth. So like he would make up excuses to why we wouldn't do a lot of things then. Even with going back to school to get my degree, I wanted to do more, but for us as a family. And I think I became too much for him for that because I was always dependent on him. But I was doing it so we could depend on each other. But I don't know how it took a turn for the worse, but it did because we renewed our vows. Then 2 months later, my mom died. And then my nephew died 5 months after my mom. And then my ex-husband just got up and walked out the door 2 months after my nephew died. He said he wanted to more for himself. And I didn't help him grow as a man.
Wow. Wow, that's hard because you're over here trying to evolve and trying to do life, and life is happening all around you. And the people who you are expecting to be there are kind of walking away from you. So, like, what did that do to you, like, emotionally, mentally?
Oh my God. It took me through a whole lot. So one thing that I did do, because I was on a trip when he left, when he picked up his stuff and left. I didn't even know he left. So when I returned home from my trip, as soon as I walked through the door, I already knew he was going because the dog cage was gone. And then I went upstairs, everything else was gone. I lost my breath, because, what was that bad? I had to stand in a corner after I finished crying, talking to my friends, talking to everybody. I had to stand in the corner, and God said, "You have to be still right now. You have to be still." And I still didn't understand it. So I would walk around crying, being sad, depressed. Like, everybody's gonna look at me now. How did you do that? Like, I'm thinking about what others thinking instead of me. So it took for my oldest son to say, "Listen, Mom, you gotta stop crying." He said, "Because my daughter needs you, my brother needs you." He was like, "But most of all, I need you." He said, "I got a dope mom, but I really need you to believe that." So I had to get straighten up and fly right.
You had to straighten up and fly
So that
right.
led me to, again, but that still didn't make me go through the process of what I just went through. So it
Yeah.
just made me, like, I just ran on adrenaline. I went and got a nonprofit, 501(c). I went and got my license, learned how to drive. And then I filed for a divorce.
Have you joined the waitlist for my brand new book, Hey God, Can I? This is your go-to ABC guide for married saints. Bring your questions about God, sex, and intimacy. This isn't just a book. It's a resource to help you grow spiritually while strengthening your marriage bed. So if you've ever wondered what God really says about sex and intimacy, this book is for YOU. Tap the link, sign up for the waitlist, and be the first to know when it drops. Don't wait, sis. Get on the list today.
Good. I'm so proud of you, because now you're realizing, like, man, I deserve better for myself. And not just that, you started going after it. I didn't even realize, oh my God, going through all this time, you didn't even know how to drive. So now you're like, you were dependent on people, but you start
I
getting
just
it.
learned how to drive at 40. What I start? How old am I? 54. Started driving at 47.
Wow. That's dope.
Never ever had an inkling in me that I could do it or want to do it. I just didn't do it.
That is so dope. And I love that, because it might have not felt like, all things are working together for the good, but it really hits home to that scripture where God is like, all things work together for the good, because it was him positioning you in that space to allow somebody who was not really supposed to be there to come out for you to be able to accomplish all the things. Like, I
You know
love
how
that.
many times people say that to me? So many people say, like, still to this day, but like, I cannot believe I'm driving. I can't believe I'm driving.
You were driving me around.
Yes.
And I love
Yes.
it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I want to take it back just a little bit, though, because
Mhm.
you mentioned something that your mom had passed away. And I want to walk through that process real quick, because I know that
That's
had
a
to be
good
a
one.
lot. Yeah. I know that had to be a lot. So let's talk about that for a little
So
bit.
my mom, it's funny because I called before my mom. My mom was the mascot of Penn Hospital, and my dad was a mascot of Lincoln All Hospital. Like, no matter what they did, my mom had her kids at Presbyterian. She had everything at this hospital. So I want to believe it was September 25th, 2016. She called me and she was like, "It's nothing. They telling me it's nothing they could do." Let me take it back. My mom been on dialysis for 18 years now. Then. And she was like, they telling me there's nothing they could do for me. And I want to go to Jefferson and get a second opinion. Now, I'm listening to my mom and I know my mom. It's like, what is Jefferson going to tell you? What do they mean they can't do anything else for you? Because I'm still trying to understand what she's talking about. She said the dialysis is now not working. So all of her organs is like failing. So she said she couldn't even get dialysis anymore. So I was like, now in my head, I'm like, whoa. But she didn't want me to tell my siblings. She wanted to go get a second opinion. This was a Sunday night. I was at work because I did 7 to 7. So I went home and I told my husband then that when my mom called and told me, he was like, "You can't carry all of that." He was like, "That's a lot." I was like, "But I can't tell them." So Monday came, my mom slept all day. Tuesday came, they called me and said she was back in the hospital. So I go to the hospital and I was like, "Mom," the way she was laying there, I was like, I can't not tell my siblings or your siblings that you in here and sick like this. So I still didn't understand, like, when they said they couldn't do anything else for her, like, what are you talking about? Like, what's next? So she was like, okay, you could tell them. So now everybody's at the hospital. This was a Tuesday. The next day, because we all took turns staying. So mom asked for some pig feet, potato salad, and fried chicken. She was like, "I want that." So we still not knowing what's going on, even though the nurse telling us is the end of her days. I still didn't want to believe that. We fulfilled her request. She got everything but her pig feet. So that was Wednesday. Thursday, Sharon said, "I can't come over there with all of that noise." So Sharon is my sister that passed away from lupus in 2009. So I'm like, "You can't come over there with all that noise." So she had a bunch of poison in her stomach because she's not getting dialysis anymore. So whatever is in her is like baking up.
Mhm.
So they came and tapped her stomach that night. So the next day we went to see her. She was quiet the whole time, just quiet. And she looked in the corner and started calling her mom. This is really real. So then I can't, I don't want to leave. I did go home at night with a bed. My youngest sister stayed the night with her. We even had a rude nurse I had to put in her place because that's my mom. And I don't even want her working with my mom. She comes in a room, didn't address any of us, just wanted to get a report from the other nurse and just check my mom armband, didn't say speak to her, no nothing. So, you know me, I know everybody because that was my former job. Don't want her working with my mom. We have to take her off because her attitude when she walked in the door wasn't welcoming at all. And my mom is in her last days. We don't even know when no, we can't have her here. Friday, they asked me and my sisters to come speak with the hospice nurse, and they expressed to us that my mom said she doesn't want to leave her daughters. And I was like, no, it's real. It was like my mom said she's afraid to leave her daughters. So I asked my then husband and my sister's husband. They both told my mom that they will have us. Don't worry, they have us. So that Saturday morning, we went to the hospice facility. I met her there. Soon as she walked in the door, soon as she came in the door, I said, Mom, what was you doing? She told me I was watching TV. I said, watching what? She said, the news. Now, I knew she was telling the story because she couldn't even get TV there. So her younger brother was standing beside me, and she started yelling his name. Said, Mommy said, come here. I said to him, Uncle Larry, she's telling you that your mom is saying you have to take care of us. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah.
Because she about to leave us.
Yeah.
So I had 2 prayer warriors. They both came, prayed on my mom, everything. One of our old neighbors and all. Long story short, all the kids came, drew pictures, praying with my mom, talking to my mom. And she just keep yelling out, yelling out, yelling out. I didn't even think it was going to be that fast, Tammy. So everybody started leaving. My sister go take the kids home. So it's now me, my little sister, and my cousin. So one of my friends wanted to come and sit with me. And the doors were locked. So my cousin and my sister went downstairs to let her in. So I'm like, oh God, now it's just me and my mom. But Smokey Norfolk, the song came right there. It was like, Lord, I need you now. I was like, why did this song? It was like, I need you now. And I turned around and I said, Mom, don't be selfish with yourself. If you're in pain, I told her, I promise you, I got me and my sisters. I was like, don't suffer anymore. I was like, we love you. And it's okay to go. Tammy, I promise you I will never take this moment out of my head because she put her hands together like this and she put her feet side by side. This was at 10:15 I started talking to her. 10:26 she took her last breath.
Wow.
Just me and her. And I still couldn't cry.
But that doesn't mean that, you didn't feel it. We all express.
Because one of my sisters, the little sister that went downstairs, and my other one they was on their way back in the door. Laid on the floor crying and just like, oh my God, now what I'm going to do? I had to be strong for them.
Yeah. You're remaining strong. Yeah. I'm so sorry that you had to experience that with your mom. And I know that it brings us to, your foundation that you started. I want to talk a little bit about the foundation that you have in honor of your mom.
This is my nonprofit, Diane's Way. So when my mom passed away, a young lady reached out to me. Prior to her reaching out to me, I said, I'm going to get a nonprofit and I'm going to name it Diane's Way. But I wanted a recovery house because my mom was on drugs. So I did all of that. Then a young lady reached out to me right after my nephew died and said she needed to know who my grandfather was. Long story short, her dad was my grandfather. Now that's when I learned that my grandfather was a monster. Because she said when she met her dad, it was the worst 5 years of her life because he raped her every chance he got. And she believes he did it to everyone else. So I asked my aunt, was it true? And she said yes. So now it brought me back in a circle to Wow. When I first met my grandfather, I looked so much like my grandma. He told my mom he was going to buy a house near me, and she said over my dead body. I said, so all of these things make sense now as to why she was scared to leave us, because my grandfather had 49 children. My grandma had 7 of his 49, and he raped all of his daughters and fathered some of their children, right? So now I don't want a recovery house because what came before the drugs? The trauma. And that's a lot of things that we all don't deal with is the trauma. So I named it Diane's Way because I feel like if my mom had it her way, life would have been totally different.
Yeah.
Because she came to someone in their dream and told them to tell me that she's proud of me. She's sorry for leaving such a burden on me, but she wants me to leave a legacy.
Wow. Wow. And you know, it's like a moment where you're realizing that like everything that my mom did, she was living out those symptoms of what she was experiencing. And so it was the not being able to express that
Same.
because just like you didn't express. And she came from even an older time frame, you know? And so speaking about trauma that's that close, I can only imagine what she was feeling and, you know, using probably, and I'm just making the assumption that probably trying to escape, you know, because that's one of the reasons why people become consumed in drugs is because one of the reasons is because they're trying to escape a reality that is too difficult for them to deal with. You
Mm-hmm.
were able to block out some of the pieces of your story, but maybe in her mind, she had a continuous recollection of it. And so that had to have been hard. And I'm so proud of you because life hit you very hard in so many different ways, in so many different directions, but you have been able to pivot through so much of it all. And
My
I'm so
gosh.
proud of you for
Yes.
that.
So thank you.
I am so proud of you for that. And we could be here all day, but I do want you to share like what is some advice that you would share to somebody who is stuck in a situation that they feel like they can't get out of? What advice would you give to them?
Find that person that you can share, that you feel comfortable with, and share your feelings. But most of all, accept what happened, go to therapy, grow through the pain, and start your healing process.
I love that because it is going to be a process. Absolutely. It's going to be a process. So with that, Crystal, I do want to thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on my podcast. Let me tell you, if it's one thing that I do know is that your story is going to heal somebody because how do you accomplish everything that you have accomplished, which is a lot, but have experienced everything that you experienced? It teaches us that we have no excuses. There are no excuses because we can pivot through anything because we have God. Let me ask you real quick, how has faith played a role in your story?
You said faith. With me being able to even share my story is a blessing. Like for me to have the strength to muster up a lot of things because I have a stent in my heart and a piece of metal lodged in my lung for the rest of my life.
Ooh,
Right?
yeah.
All I can say is, but God.
Let's go there real quick because you brought it up, right? Like, let's just do it real quick, right? Because people have to understand, like real talk, because now you're telling me that you have a piece of metal that's stuck in your heart.
No,
And
in my
I know
lungs.
your story. I know your story, but it's there for life.
Mhm.
So let's just talk about it real quick because you mentioned it. So let's go into it real quick.
So I had a blood disorder, and I'm still looking into it because I believe it's when I had my first son, which is 38 years ago, and I hemorrhaged really bad. So I've been having problems with blood clots. So they put a filter in me to prevent blood clots from traveling. But they told me that they never told me they took it off the market. So in 2015, the piece broke and it pierced my heart, sent me into a heart attack. And they took every piece out besides one piece they couldn't get out of my lung. And it's got to be in there for the rest of my life. It still has not moved. So it's just in me. So they had to put a stent in my heart to keep my heart to get ticking, keep it ticking. And then the piece of metal is just, they monitored it and they still monitor it.
Wow. And this is something that is occurring for the rest of your life.
Rest of my life. And like I said, God told me to shine. He told me to take a deep breath, breathe, and shine. So I took that as take a deep breath. I never thank God for the millions of breaths I was allowed to take after having that situation happen to me. So he told me to take a deep breath. He want me to shine. And I'm just gonna do that.
And that you are. And to just think that God is telling you to take a deep breath. When we breathe, we're literally breathing the name Yahweh, which is the highest name. Like we're
Amen.
speaking Yahweh, God. Like we're speaking
Yes.
his name through our breath. And it's in that we're able to live, move, and breathe.
Absolutely. That radiologist told me, he said, you are a walking miracle. He said, you don't need oxygen. We didn't have to remove your lung. And you're actually sitting here talking to me. He was like, I just say it's a miracle. And this has been, this is 2025. It's been lodged in my lung for 10 years now.
Wow. Y'all see how good God is. I just want y'all to understand that you are a living, walking testimony of the goodness of God. And I'm so glad that you are on my podcast sharing the story, because I really want people to understand that they have no excuse. No excuse to accomplish your goals. No amount of trauma that can stop you, keep you. God wants you to pursue everything it is that you're going after, because in your story, in your pivot, is how you are helping and reaching and healing others. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like you are
Yes.
showing that just by being here. Goodness.
Yes.
Like, wow. And y'all, listen, like I've heard this story 100 times, but every time I hear it, every time I hear it, I am just like in awe of the goodness of God, because I'm like, man, like, how do you even get through some of that, even just a piece of it without God? You can't. You
can't.
can't. You cannot sustain life without God. And this is why I'm so glad I have him, because we go through traumatic things. However, it's God who's going to allow his grace to push us through it, you know?
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing again, because again, your story is so powerful, man. I want people to be able to reach you, know you. Crystal is an author, like she said. Share how they can connect with you and reach out to you.
Actually, and I don't care who has my phone number. So my phone number is 215-913-7368. But you can find me on Facebook under Crystal Veney or under author Crystal Thomas. And my Instagram is Crystal at her best. And I think that's because I don't know what my TikTok is. I'm still learning these things. But that is it for now, right now. And my website will be up in a couple of weeks. It's almost done.
Absolutely. And I'll be sure to put some of those links at the bottom of this episode. And y'all remember, please go out and get one of Crystal's books. She has a book. It's called Sis, You Got This. Okay. Sis,
Yes.
You Got This. And then also, we were actually in a book together. We were in an anthology.
Yes.
The
Let us do a little girl.
Yeah, so we've actually done some projects and stuff together, and I'm so excited about all of that. So
Yes.
thank you again, Crystal.
I so appreciate you, friend. I love you. And look, that's what's crazy though, Tammy. I didn't cry. That means I'm growing through this.
That means you're growing through this. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank
I am
you.
absolutely proud of you. Because listen, when I tell you, you are my inspiration, you are truly my inspiration, because you are showing me that I can pivot through anything. You know, I can pivot through anything, and just watching how you are continuously going after it. Like even now today, in spite of your past, in spite of your trauma, you are still doing it. You're still doing it. And I'm proud of you for that. And I know that there are, things that you want to do more of. And I promise you, I already know that God is already creating the path for you to accomplish those things. And so, real quick, I'm going to just say this because, you have children, you have grandchildren, and they are smart and they are excelling in everything it is that they're doing. So even the fruit, like your grandson, I know you didn't mention this, but her grandson wrote a book.
And my granddaughter.
And your granddaughter wrote they're doing things. And what y'all are doing is breaking generational curses, because life says that, you should not be where you are right now. You should not be accomplishing these things right now. But yet here you are doing it. continuously, and not just you, but you have gotten to a space where you're doing it so well that it's living through your seed, because you're
Yes.
doing, like you say, you are creating a legacy. And your family is following suit because of your perseverance, your diligence, what it is that you're doing, how you're moving, how you're going forward. And I know
Absolutely.
that God is still creating spaces for you to elevate even more. And this is just the beginning of your story. This is the beginning of your new story of now you living in the fruit of God. And I truly believe that for you.
Yes.
I truly
Thank
believe
you.
that for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want people to believe that it can be done. If you put your best foot forward, I really believe that it can be done. And remember that your children are watching. Your children, your grandchildren, they watch everything that you do.
Yeah, you are proof of that. You are proof of that. If there is any doubt at all, you are proof that it can be done.
Yes.
Amen. So I want to thank you all for, tuning into this episode. I know this one is a little bit heavy, and it wasn't as heavy as I thought it was going to be. I'm actually glad, right? Because I did truly want you to be able to see the inspiration in front of you. I wanted you to see how Crystal has excelled, and I wanted you to be able to see that you can accomplish the thing regardless of what it is you're going through. I've heard a lot of traumatic stories about people and their experiences and how they experience things. But because you have God, because you hold on to faith, God is able to walk you through that process so that that process can turn into a testimony that can be a triumph for somebody else. And so I want you to be able to look at Crystal and continue to persevere, continue to push forward, because your story does not end where you are right now. It ends when you pivot, right? God wants to continuously allow you to grow and excel and do the things. And he is showing you people who have done it because it can be done. You just have to believe it in your spirit. You have to believe in your heart that it can be done. You have to be able to see it. And we see through Crystal that it can. And so I want to thank you, Crystal, again for showing up here today on this platform and sharing. Yeah. Is there anything else that you want to say to anyone else who is listening?
If it hurt you, let you heal you.
That's good. That's good. And I love that. And on that note, y'all, we are going to end. I want to thank you again for coming. Thank you to my viewers, my listeners, for sticking by me, y'all. We are doing so well with this podcast. I love it. I love the support. I love everything that you're doing on your end. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for giving me the push to even come out here and do something that I'm not always comfortable with, but yet you're still here. And so I thank you all for
doing the thing.
Yes, girl, I am. I made a decision. I was like, I'm going to do this thing, and I am doing it.
Yes.
So thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to please like, subscribe, and share. And until next time, bye.